All right. And now it's the ghost buffalo. The old man slowly distracted himself from the weasel pelt that he had been laboring on as Redheart approached his lodge. As the young warrior waited respectfully, Swift Medicine took the time to observe the boy standing quietly at Redheart's side, eyes lowered. It was not unusual for a younger dogman such as Redheart to seek his counsel, but why was the skinny youth with the hollow eyes brought along? Setting aside his work, he gestured them to enter. The tall, gaunt boy was pleasant to look upon and had about him the aspects of the beautiful people, Tsitsistas, northern Cheyenne. As they exchanged greetings, he surmised that the youth was one of the survivors of the recent Sand Creek massacre. He himself was still weary and sore in spirit, though it had already been half a moon cycle since the remnants of that band had joined his camp here in their winter grounds. His own dreams and visions were yet to return back to him, and he felt an emptiness. Yes, empty, hollowed out, but heavy like a cold fire pit, overfull of ashes. His heart lay with such sadness in his chest. Not good for a warrior. His attention had drifted. When it returned, it was to hear Redheart divulge the reason for bringing this one they called the Cottonwood boy, Wagachun, to him. There was something of obvious import to tell him as a leader. "I am hearing you." Swift Medicine spoke as he settled down upon his backrest. At that, the young man began to recite. It was the moon of the first snowfall. I was with the herd, where I usually am. Little White Bear and I, and one I cannot now name, were somewhere with me in the night's blackness. It was the time just before the sun's return, when the eye can see nothing but the faint skeleton of the trees, and even the owls and coyotes keep the night's long silence still. It was the time when I would take the most care to keep alert, so that when I detected a faint milling among my pretty horses at the far end of the canyon, my awareness was most keen. There appeared to be a faint glow, like the moon's light, but instead of spreading over all below, it just illuminated the darkest stretch of the canyon. Now this was an area where there were no defaults, no cut banks, no way in or out. As to this strange light, it was not in the east, where one would expect the sun to rise. There began movement in the herd, but not the kind that signaled a disturbance. At this, the old warrior signaled him to halt, and reached for his pipe bag. This recounting had certain elements of a vision. He studied the boy as he carefully prepared the smoke. There was an exceeding calm about him, as though he had nothing of value to import. This constituted the makings of humility. "Good," the old dog soldier solemnly assessed, signaling him to continue. The herd then parted of one mysterious accord, opening up a path down the middle. We had many, many, many ponies at this time. Our finest war horses, buffalo runners, and pack horses were massed together in this well-protected, sheltered place. We were rich. Then he visibly shuddered, holding back a thought he did not want to recall, looking to Redheart but briefly, then continued. The glow of light grew stronger, but it was a pale light, like the inside of a mussel shell, not golden as the sun can make, but like abalone. Down this pathway slowly trod a large white buffalo, as shining white as the clouds are that always accompany a full-bodied moon. The animal was magnificently muscled and thickly furred. Did he not know that this was a vision? The old man wondered. How could one of so few years recount this telling of the great white buffalo of all our people without obvious excitement? Swift Medicine began to wonder more of just who this Cottonwood boy was, observing him closely as he nodded for him to continue. Poorly dressed, as most of the survivors of the Sand Creek massacre were, having escaped with just the clothes on their back, though generously given from their brothers and sisters here in the camps, what could be spared. He had no regalia of any telling significance, save a worn crow feather dangling from his scalp lock. Of course, my heart raced. Should I signal the others, or wait and see? Was there danger? I did not think so, but I felt overcome in a way that I had never experienced before. The beast was drawing closer. The horses stood unmoving to let him past. Did I say that this was a very large bull buffalo, not a calf? Soon it would be close enough to breathe on me, but I stood rooted to the ground, barely aware that I, too, stood at attention like the horses. Did I say that the sky did not continue to lighten? This confused me. Was this a dream, a vision, or was this real? But how could it be? At that time, I was too full of awe to think clearly. Oddly, I expected the great white one to come to me and stop. My heart began to race. Excuse me for thinking that I was to be chosen, but I did. Time did not move. The only movement was the buffalo as it passed by me and through the herd, working down towards the village where all still slept. As it passed, I seemed to come back to my senses and knew that I must run to awaken my guardian and tell him of the white buffalo's return, as prophesied. But I could not move. I could not move. And as my eyes were fixed on his passage, I saw each and every horse in our herd sink slowly, too slowly, to the hard, cold ground. They lay as dead, the snow beneath them seeping red, but my eyes were still fixed on the great beast who kept advancing in a measured pace toward our encampment. When he stood by the first lodge, he looked towards me. I am ashamed to say that in my great fear I dropped my eyes. Shame entered my heart at my fear. Then to my horror he pushed against the hide of the lodge, which gave no resistance. It did not topple or even tear, as this great white animal walked right through it. "He knocked it over?" Red Heart blurted rudely out. Swift Medicine hand rose to stay any further interruption, as the boy calmly continued. The great white buffalo walked through lodge after lodge, passed right through them without knocking down even a lodgepole, nor a medicine bundle, nor waking any dogs. Not a warrior ran out, not a dog barked. My ears burned in silence. He passed right through the hide walls of lodge after lodge, avoiding just a few, and still the village slept on, unawares. That's when I realized he was a spirit, a ghost buffalo, and he hesitated again, passing a thin, long-fingered hand across his eyes, the only sign the two older men noted of a disturbance in the storyteller's demeanor. This Cheyenne was old beyond his years, it seemed. He continued, moving step by measured step. Each white hair shimmered so brightly that I could barely keep my eyes upon it. With each step, the brilliance seemed to increase as he crossed the creek and moved slowly up the steep hillside, up, 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 into the sky, now fading with each further step away from our village. Great fear settled on me like a sheet of ice. I felt I must move, give warning. This was a very bad omen. Even I knew this. That's when I woke to the sound of the bluecoats' big guns tearing into our lodges, just as first light had arrived. He sank to his feet, eyes upon the ground, spent in the retelling. I think his heart fell down once more.